Hello and welcome to JoyRide with your hosts, the metaphysical moms, Tiffany and Carrie. JoyRide takes you on a spin through all things spiritual and soulful, including holistic healing, energy work, and personal development. Now, here are your hosts, Tiffany and Carrie.
Hello, my dear. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Facebook Live. We have with us Emmanuel McIntosh all the way from Belgium.
Yay.
Live in person in the studio.
Thank you.
We've done a bunch of Skype stuff, but here you are. You flew all the way in. And literally, Emmanuel landed last night, put her to bed, and then woke her up early and got her here in the studio. So.
It was a long ride, but it was worth it.
And I think you were up yesterday, what, 24 hours?
24 hours awake. And
That's
then
a long time.
we still talked.
We still talked? You still had dinner?
Yeah.
You have your beautiful mom. Hi,
Yes.
Mom. Mom's here in the
Hello.
studio with us, too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you got
joining.
away to just come over here and have fun, visit Texas, relax a little bit. You are booked solid.
Yeah, we're having fun. I think I needed a break. So, we're booked solid till July 2018. So, I think I needed a break, and I just wanted to have my break with some enlightened people, you know, with friends.
So excited.
And just meet people over here, because I've been working with Elisa and I've been working with you guys, but I've never got to hug you and say I love you, you know, up close. So I figured that this would be a good time to take my vacation here and just visit everybody.
How lucky are we?
And we made you come to work.
I know.
We said,
right?
while you're
Oh, but
here,
this
will you
is not
please
work.
come do
This
a
is
show?
just fun. This is
Yes,
just fun.
This
it
is
is
fun.
So what we thought today is that we would do a show live on Facebook where you could help. We could talk about how everybody has their own psychic ability, their own intuition, and how to tune into that, trust it, develop it, so we don't have to book you up solid for a year and wait to hear from our loved ones to call you. We can kind of tune in and do it ourselves, and that's what you teach now, right? You do your Learn It Lives, and you teach people.
Yeah, and I think during the readings as well, you know, a lot of questions are, how can I do it? How can I connect? How do I know that they're here? You know, because, you know, you can connect a medium, but, you know, can't call every week and say, hey, is my daughter's there, or is my son there?
Right,
you know,
right.
and I think we're all psychics. We all are, and we can all do what I do. And it's just about, you know, paying attention.
Okay, so I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. Because I was told early on, don't talk to, you can do it yourself. And to get out of my own head, and yes, I can do it, and I get hits, but I can't rely on it. And you don't just get hits. I mean, when I spoke with you finally back in October, I think, I had a session. You knew names. You knew my great-grandmother's name. I mean, you called everybody by name. I mean, so it wasn't, and it was so funny. So we're on Skype, and all of a sudden the screen would start going, wah! And you're like, please step back. Please step back. And so apparently they get really close to the screen, and that just made it so real for me.
And I love, you're so modest. You're like, I don't do well with names, but I have
I'm being
your
careful
mom,
with
you
it.
did, and you rattle off
You're lowering the
10
bar.
names so that you're not to disappoint, and you just
That
rattle
way I
off
don't disappoint.
all my people up there. You rattle off the names.
It's a self-protection
It
thing.
is.
Yeah. I might suck at this, but
I just nailed it.
but your Aunt Johnny says I'm great.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's so I think to tune in, and I'm sure it's part of your life's path and your life's work. So if I'm not meant to really be someone like you, then I may not get the skills quite as sharply, quite as in tune. Or do you think I could do exactly what you do?
You can do the exact same thing. But again, so what you just
What do you
stated.
base that on?
Okay, well, what you just stated was, I can't trust myself. Well, when you send that out, then guess what's going to happen? You're not going to get the information out.
That's
truly.
true. That's true.
You know, and that takes years. I mean, you know, you have to trust yourself. That's
It took you a year and a half.
No,
know.
It took me years of trusting what I felt.
Right.
That's where it starts. It's not, you know, everything we feel, every thought we get in, you think that really just comes from you.
No.
No, it comes from people who are helping you, guiding you, past loved ones. It comes from your angels. It comes from Source that are trying to push you in a direction that they feel will help you fulfill your journey here. You know, so that's where it starts. It starts by trusting what you feel, trusting what you think, what you hear, and that's being a psychic. That's where it starts. And then, you know, after really getting that under, you know, control, like 100% trust within yourself, you know, the rest just follows.
Now, do you trust yourself? Do you trust yourself like that?
I trust what I feel 100%. Yeah. I mean, if I go into a situation, I go, doesn't feel right, I step away. Or, this person feels like, you know, they might not be good for me. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad people or they're, you know, but it might not be beneficial to me.
It doesn't resonate with you.
Yeah. You know, you feel that. And you know, and I think that's the number one psychic ability is your intuition.
Right.
But how do you discern between what is a fearful thought and what is kind of advice?
That's self-knowledge.
Yeah. That's
where you really have to start dissecting your thoughts. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I responding in this way? You know, what's the underlining behind it? You really have to learn to look at yourself objectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? And I think I did years of self-looking, self-observing.
Yeah.
You know, I was in the depression for years. You know, I had good days too, but, you know, for a long time, I was afraid of everything and everybody and of myself. I didn't like myself. You know, I didn't have a lot of friends. And so you do a lot of thinking when you're on your own and you're just laying in your bed all depressed. You really go into the self and you reflect upon yourself. And I think my depression actually helped me, you know, because I really got to figure out where these feelings were coming from and what it was doing to me and understanding it. So self-reflection and self-knowledge helps you to figure out what that feeling comes from. You know, and if you eventually allow yourself to not be fearful, then you'll know that whatever comes in, and I've gotten to that point where I'm just not afraid. You know, there's, of course, I still have, you know, some self-doubts, and I feel this urge towards certain things that I'm not really sure what that urge is, that pull. But I don't let fear control me anymore. I don't let fear control my thoughts. You know, if somebody tells me, oh, you got to watch out, it's dangerous there, you know, because they said, well, Texas, be careful, there might be some criminal activity there. I was like,
we all have guns.
You know, well, I mean, so what? The whole world has that. You know, if you live your life in fear, like, oh, when you come down here and I'm supposed to be scared, no, then you'll just attract that fear. You'll attract what you're afraid of. So I just come, you know, and say, hey, this is going to be great.
Right.
So I know it's going to be great. So.
And that's what it is.
And that's what it is. So that's how you distinguish your own intuition, you know. And intuition is the number one psychic ability we all have. When we meet a person, we'll immediately feel, good person, bad person,
not sure.
You get a vibe.
You totally get a vibe.
Or when you're house hunting, you'll know, oh, that's not it for me. Or you'll walk into this house and you're like, that's it. That's it. That is the universe talking to you. That is you tuning into the energy of all that is. That is you tuning into Source.
And
it's
not a head thing.
You're supposed to have that house. Yeah. You're supposed to not have that house.
Yeah, it's not a head thing. Sometimes it doesn't make any rational
sense. It's not a
sense.
head thing. It's a feeling. Yeah. And that's what we need to do. Intuition is about trusting what you feel and making sure that fear is not into the game.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the biggest intuition buster.
Well, and I think that's true. And I think that there are so many things that we have, but you don't realize everyone else does not experience the same thing. Like I have this one friend, Tom. And every time Tom calls, I know when he calls, the phone will ring and I know it's Tom. And I just thought everybody had that. Mm-hmm. And that is, but I think when it's been one way your whole life, you just assume and you don't really pay attention. And it's like, well, you're psychic. Why am I not? Yeah. It's like, oh, well, maybe all of these things, you know, like you have to be able to see it and to realize, and that's where your gift is, and then expand from there, right?
Exactly. And I think it's just about kind of recognizing, what do I get in a lot? Do I get that feeling? Like, you know, you pick up the phone before it rings, and then you're like, you thought you had a message, and you pick up, and there's no message, and right as you're looking at it, bing, there goes your message.
Yeah.
You know? Or is it just feeling people? You know? Oh, you know, I feel like something's wrong. Like somebody could be completely smiling and happy, but you feel You feel fearful, or you feel hurt, or you feel sadness, and you're like, why am I feeling sad? Well, that's because you're connecting to what the person is hiding inside.
Right.
It's about figuring out what you're good at. Are you good at getting all these thoughts in that you feel like, that doesn't really belong to me? Where is that coming from? Or are you a daydreamer? Daydreaming, and I'll go over them, but daydreaming is that's premonition. Do you have a lot of deja vu?
Yeah, I do.
You've seen that.
Deja vu?
Deja vu? Deja vu.
So the way we were going to run this show today is kind of spend the first half of the show with you teaching us all these pointers and what to look for and how to feel it. And then the second half, we're going to connect with you guys who are listening and tuning in on Facebook Live and answer your questions about channeling and about being your own guide and hearing your own intuition. So Emma's not going to read people today to specifically give messages from loved ones so much but Eric is right here.
Yeah.
Eric's
sitting
joining
right there
us.
Next to Mom.
And so we want to say a quick hi. Hi, Birdie. Good to see you in New Braunfels. And Simon is Amanda and Simon are tuning in from the UK. Sarah, our lovely Sinky Sarah, hi. Milan, Madeline, Gina. And Gina's saying yes. What am I using? We were talking about fear. And what am I using to validate this fear? Good questions to ask, all those self-reflection questions. But you have. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. And in a little bit, we will be taking your questions for Eric.
How to improve your psychic skills. Yeah, whatever questions you guys have. What's blocking me?
I have wanted to have these. I feel like for years I've wanted to have these skills. Like I should be able to communicate and tell people messages from their loved ones. I'm like, where is it? Why is this not here? For years I felt like
Why? What was that? Why did you want that? Because that's not what everybody grows up wanting to do. Because I had the same thing, and I have my response. But why did you want it?
Well, mine was back in the 90s when I very first had my first psychic medium reading, and I got loving validation from my mom who had passed on 10 years before. It was so healing. It was just so healing, and I thought I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to heal people who've gone through experiences like this in such a fundamental way that nothing else could. Yeah. So that's where that came from for me.
And that's where a lot of people start, actually.
Yeah.
They lose a loved one, and they're looking for a connection, and that's how a lot of people start their psychic abilities.
But do you find, though, that it's easy for folks to just depend on you? Because, I mean, I'm sure that's the way it is, because most of us feel like we can't do this. And so it's like telling a cute girl that she's cute. She's not going to believe it. She needs to hear it over and over again.
No,
like,
she needs to feel it.
Well, that's exactly right. And I know a person that she calls her medium every week. And it's her, and like instead of going within, she relies on that person because it is easier. And once you trust that person, I mean, I'm trying to not work you out of a job here. I mean,
no, but but then you really go into fortune telling and future telling, and
That's
true.
True.
When you have people who really call in every week, I mean what that does is it disables you to make any decisions
right
without having a confirmation or without. So you're basically eliminating your intuition. You're shutting
your
it down.
own GPS.
You're shutting it down. And eventually people rely on it because they can't find it anymore. They've shut it down. So I don't recommend it. If you have a reading maybe 2-3 times a year to kind of see, okay, if you're still going in the right direction or, I think that's fine. But I think every week you're basically shutting down all your abilities because you're only focusing on what a medium is telling you. And the future can always change.
Right. It's not.
You're in charge of your future. So, if a medium tells you, oh, you're going to do this and you're going to do that, well, a lot of times that'll come true. Why? Because you are trusting that person that that's going to happen. So you're actually creating it with your mind. Right? But I think a medium is there to help you connect, but to give you the tools.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the tools. This is what you do. This is what you work on. And I think, for me, I don't do a lot of predictions for futures. I help people find those answers themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's what I do. I lead them. I give them the tools, and then they have to do the work. And then, they come back after so many months and say, okay, this works for me now, but that doesn't seem to work. What's your cue on that? Why is that not working? And you can help them find the answer, you know. And I think that's what's important in mediumship is to just not say this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to happen. No, give people the tool to find it themselves. You know, that's how we're going to become enlightened beings. You know, and you know, I think it's important. I think that it's important that as a medium to be a teacher.
Well, and you've told me that in some readings. I've asked questions, and you've been like, they're not giving me anything on that. You are to work through this yourself. You're to discover your own answer, or what we say might influence the decision you make. And you are in a free will zone down there.
Yeah.
And we want to tell you, just trust yourself. You're on the right track. Just keep trusting and doing your thing.
And from experience, spirits usually don't give you any straight answers.
No.
They're always like, well,
They're
it
slippery.
could go in this direction if you do this, but if you need to follow your heart, and then you'll see that it'll come to you.
Yeah.
You know, they always kind of go around the subject, so they give you kind of the tools to figure it out yourself. I've never had a spirit say, oh, tomorrow you're going to die. But I have people who come to me and say, we went to this medium, I'm supposed to be dead today. Wow. They're not going to tell you when you're going to die.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just not going to happen. They're not going to tell you, if you become a medium yourself, you're only going to attract negative people. Or I had a lady who said, you're only going to attract negative spirits, and you're going to get cancer when you become a medium. Okay, if a medium tells you that, switch mediums.
Well, that's their own filter, and see, and that's something
that's their own fear kicking in.
But that's what I've always loved about you is that you're pretty clear. I mean, as far as I can see, you're completely clear, and the stuff that comes through, like there's just no ego. You say what needs to be said, and you don't attach your
I don't attach myself in the
to
situation, in the conversation.
Right.
I tried to stay completely neutral at that moment. I mean, I have my own belief systems and morale and all of that, but during a reading, it's not about me. It's about them giving information for that person. And I know and I trust the spiritual team, my patient's spiritual team, that they're going to know exactly what to tell this person. And sometimes they'll say, oh, you can't do it, and that person will do it anyway. And the spirit will say, well, I just told you exactly what you needed to hear, because you're a person that when we tell you can't do it, you're going to prove
Reverse psychology.
Yeah. Sometimes they really just tell you what you need to hear in order to go in that direction. So it's really the messages that you receive, you just have to be open to it, and allow the energy of the message to affect you in a certain way, because they know exactly we need to say this in order for her to get there. So your team knows your ins and outs. They know what holds you back. They know what motivates you. So it's all about trust.
So your team talks to their team?
No, well, I talk to when I connect with you, I talk to your team. Eric's always there to help me out in case I get stuck, but that hardly ever happens. He just likes to stick around, I think.
He's a voyeur.
He just likes to be in the attention. But no, I just connect to your team. And I know I have my team there as well, but usually I just connect to your mom and and your dad, and I just connect to whoever wants to come in. And sometimes they give you hard messages, straightforward in the face, like, hey, we need to tell you this, or you're going to fall deeper than you would if we didn't tell you. I have readings that are really straight up in the face, but I notice that people, after the reading's over, they have this turnaround. Yeah. They're like, oh my God, I needed that. Yeah. And then I have readings.
It's like you can sense it, and just giving that validation. You're like, okay, now it's not fear anymore. Now I'm good.
Now I'm ready to move on.
And then I have people where they really go soft. It's going to be okay, and they guide them. So they know exactly how you need to be approached. So I trust them. So I'm not allowed to put my spin on it. Right. I trust them that they're going to give the information in the matter that person needs to receive it, and then that's what I do.
And do you ever go, oh, I really don't want to say this? I mean, do you ever have that feeling?
I do. I have, and usually when it comes to rape or when it comes to sexual abuse, it just kind of connects with me. And for some reason, I always kind of get this fear, like, how do I say that? Mm-hmm. And I usually just blurt it out. Yeah.
Just rip off.
I
the
just
and
rip off the Band-Aid.
for Emma's backstory, because you have experienced a lot of trauma and different kinds of abuses, but you've been told by Spirit that was to prepare you to be able to have compassion and
it
connect
all
with people.
had a purpose.
So we've done several shows with you. I think the Moses Malone show was one where we kind of got your backstory and heard, and you just did one with Elisa on channeling Eric, which was great, all about your backstory and your journey to becoming a medium, and how you've just been doing this like professionally for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I see some people are saying, oh, hi, Denise. She's saying, how can we schedule a reading? Well, Emma is booked up until July of next year, and your husband's joined.
Hi,
But what
honey.
we're
He's my
doing,
support.
what we're doing today is Emma is teaching. You do Learn It Live, some gallery readings on Learn It Live. But what we're trying to do today is help other people learn their own skills.
And I think that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm not here to say, hey, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. I'm here to say, hey, how can we figure this out?
Put your own antenna up.
Yeah. I'm here to teach people how to do it themselves. And, you know, I'm not just a medium. I'm a life coach as well. So I guide people through
He says,
fears.
hey, baby.
Yo, baby.
Yeah. Hi, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Gerald, for...
Elizabeth came to the channeling Eric last year. She was great.
Oh,
Thank you,
Yeah,
Gerald, for
really.
letting us have Emma and her mom this week. And I know you're home with the girls and
your father-in-law.
father-in-law. So it'll be your turn soon.
Yeah, he can come on talk about energy healing, because my husband's an energy healer. He's great.
He's
He does
fantastic.
distance
I've
healing.
had distance healing from your husband, and
he's
he is
great.
amazing.
Yeah,
I loved it. I felt so good, so relaxed. I know
Yeah.
I texted him and said thank you.
yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, so you have
Okay.
you have some
You have a plan.
guidance for
I have
us.
a cheat sheet.
Bring
I have
it.
a cheat sheet.
All right, folks, it's
Hey,
a little bit of
handwriting
class
is so
time today.
pretty.
We're going to talk about how to develop your psychic abilities.
Yeah, well, no, it's not about how to develop it, but it's about recognizing that you already have psychic
Perfect.
abilities.
Right.
You know, and then what we do is we can build on that. You know, it's about recognizing, okay, I get that a lot, so that means I must be good at that area. Because a lot of people will ask me the question, what am I good at? You
Right.
know?
What
am,
is my
am I
clair?
clairvoyant? Am I clair? They don't know. They're like, I don't know. I got to have something, right? So, but it's all about recognizing what happens to you in your daily life.
I'm
And
going to say
that's how
one
you
thing real.
recognize
There was a show on TV here about 10 years ago called America's Psychic Challenge, and they had a group of professional clairvoyance, medium, psychic challenge, and they put them all through series of challenges, and some were really good at remote viewing, and other people just got nothing. Some people were really good at finding a lost object, like they put a person in the trunk of a car, 50 cars, and you had to find that person. Someone did mediumship readings, so it really helped you see that some people can be super strong at one thing and they're just lukewarm on others. It
Yeah.
doesn't make it bad or wrong.
And sometimes it's equally divided.
Yeah.
You know, it really depends on the individual. And, you know, I had a lady once ask me, well, how many psychic abilities are there? And I said, endless, infinite. Because every single person has a unique frequency. And so everybody has a unique spiritual ability.
Mm-hmm.
So just as many as there are entities here on Earth or on other planets, there are as many psychic abilities.
That's cool to think
you know?
about.
So that's what it's about. It's about figuring out your psychic ability.
Right, and then you can expand on that. But so, I've always been told that people, they'll get. Let's say if people they want to cheer, I'll see this and they'll show you one thing that means this. Like if they're
So you get
showing me a
symbols and signs,
rose, it
right?
means I love you. If they're, do you get that? Symbols.
I'm thinking. I mean, I get a cue from Eric when he's around.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I get a cue from him.
Does he flash you?
No. Well, remember we were talking about how he turns my fire alarms on.
Yeah.
So in the morning, before I start my work day, I go, Eric, you ready for another great day? And the fire alarm goes, whip. Just once.
That
It just
little
beeps
chirp.
once, and then I know he's up for a game. He's ready to go.
That's so cool.
You know, that's what it is. But do I get symbols? No. Do I get synchronicities? No. It's, for me, synchronicities are not it, but for other people, it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It's about figuring out, what are you good at? I'm good at feeling emotions. I get thoughts, and I get pictures in my head. That's my ability. But other people are good with numbers. They do numerology, and they can go over your whole past and go, oh my God, 100% spot on just by looking at your numbers.
Wow.
You know, it's really about figuring out. I've done the numerology. I wasn't I don't know much about it. So I said, okay, do my numbers to a lady that I teach meditation class to. Oh my God, I was so, but she knew details that, I've never told anybody, but she knew details. And I was like, oh, is that the numbers? Is that
How did you do that?
Like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Well, like you were talking earlier about, we were talking about tarot cards, and Eric was saying it has nothing to do with the cards. It
It actually flows out of you, but a lot of people need something to have.
physical.
To
yeah.
hold
yeah.
and to,
Something
Trigger.
to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because just sitting there and going, okay, what comes into my head can be nerve-wracking. It can really be scary. What if nothing comes? But if you have a card to look at, you got something. You got something to start with.
Yeah.
But a lot of times card readers actually, see what they feel.
Yeah.
That's like the tea
I love
leaves
it.
at the
Yeah.
bottom of a tea.
It's all
tea
in
reader.
how you interpret it.
Okay, so what's the first thing we should do?
Intuition.
Well, I'm just gonna go over a few things that a lot of people experience, but they don't stop and think, ooh, psychic connection.
Right.
So intuition was number one. Like I said, you feel people, when you meet a new person, ooh, that's gonna good connection, bad connection. I feel like if I've known this person before, or if you buy a house, So number one is intuition. It's really about learning to trust your intuition. That's 100% connecting to energy, to source, to your spiritual
And
team.
acknowledging when it happens, being grateful
Exactly.
for it, and sort of
Sending out the intention that, oh, I got it, thank you. Because what you're doing then is you're actually confirming to the universe that you are spiritually connected.
got it.
And so what you're doing to yourself is you're raising that frequency and saying, hey, yeah, I am spiritually connected. So intuition is everybody's connection to universe, to source, to your team.
And you all have it.
We all have it.
You can pretend like you don't. You can feel like you don't.
You
but
can
you do.
say that you don't, and then
Okay.
you will block your intuition and not feel anything. Basically, you shut down your feelings.
Right.
And then people go through life on neutral. It's like, I don't feel anything anymore. I don't experience anything anymore.
they
But
don't
that's
want to.
because you've shut it down.
And that's a safeguard,
And you need
too.
to, sometimes it's running away from something, or a trauma happened and you want to protect yourself. You shut it down, but then we sometimes shut more down than what we really want.
Right.
And eventually life just becomes neutral.
Well, okay, so based on that, I know we were going to hold the questions till the last part, but
No, go.
Shelley Wilson Wolf asked, she said that she'll meet folks and she feels like like intuition wise, I should actually know you.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? I mean, when you keep meeting, it's like, I know we just met, but I know you, and I know we
Yeah.
just met, but is
Well,
that
a lot of times it's spirits that you've had other lives with, spirits that you've had connections with, and that you are actually having at this moment, because time is not linear. So at this moment you are meeting, you might have a relationship with this person in another life, or you might be best friends, or he might be your mother or your father, or, it's just, we recognize souls in our soul. And that's that feeling.
Yeah.
We might not recognize them physically, but as a soul, you will always recognize the people that you are also having another life with, or that you've been connected with in future lives or past lives or current lives or whatever.
So we could actually live in a completely different timeline, and where you're my sister. I mean, that and it's going on at the same time.
And it's going on at the same time.
So cool.
So, yeah, there is no time. So, at this moment, we're sitting here, but we're also somewhere in the Western world, or I don't know.
On the moon.
We're
Ancient
in
Egypt
medieval
and- yeah.
times, and they're all happening at this moment. And so, when you meet a person, like when I first met my husband, I felt like I had known him for years.
And then the thunder shakes.
Yeah, that's typical. It's like dun dun dun. But I talked to him for 3 hours, and I felt like I was talking to my long lost friend. And I mean, we got married we got engaged a week later. And we've
that was
been married for 14 years.
14 years ago. That's so cool.
Well, and I
know.
love that because, like, we have not met you physically yet, but we love you
Yeah,
from
but the
across
first
the
moment
yeah.
we talked, I felt like I knew you guys, and we did. We have had past lives together, and then sometimes you have a totally non-connection with people, And I think during our lives we kind of have these soul groups that stick together,
Yeah.
like friends.
We come together.
We have friendships, in the spiritual realm as well. And I think so. We just kind of hang out and say, okay, so what do we do this time?
It'll be so much fun, and
Who
we
do
forget
you
how
wanna
hard
be?
it
Who
is.
do you want to
I'll be the
What do you
dad.
wanna
I'll be the
experience?
sister. I'll be the uncle.
Yeah, and I think we just kind of stick to those entities that we have a similar frequency with.
Yeah.
So that goes on in the afterlife, but that continues in life.
See, I think that's so funny because I always feel like, by the way, you have a shout out.
Carrie, I love you.
Right here.
Catherine. I love you, baby.
Cuckoo? What do they call you? Cuckoo?
Catherine is a good friend of mine.
Cuckoo
And
from Belgium.
Martina's coming to the Channeling Eric event.
Well,
Yay.
So I
Belinda.
always feel like that when you cross, we all end up in the same frequency, but that's not really true, huh?
No, it's not like one place that we go to.
Or
it's
like
just,
we all...
it depends on frequency. I mean, everything is energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of go to where energetically we feel most comfortable with.
Yeah.
There's not really a location. Location's an illusion.
Right. Because separation.
Solid matter, it's an illusion. So the afterlife, there is no room. There is no, hey, you have to go in room A, B, or, they create the feeling of a room, but it can disappear just like that.
Yeah.
It's all about perception. It's about, you can go to different realms, different, I don't know, you guys, I don't know much about the dimensions and all of that. But Eric always says there's not really a hierarchy. It's not like you have to build up.
Yeah.
It's just a different frequency. So, and it's all simultaneously as well. So
you go where you're comfortable.
you
And
go
so it's
where
not
you
better, it's not
vibrate,
less.
where you feel closest to the vibration, where you feel most comfortable with.
That makes
yeah.
sense, and it draws you.
And it draws you towards spirits who are in the same frequency. And a lot of times, you just kind of stick around.
I love that.
Sorry, I'm getting a text from my son that our dog just vomited in the playroom. So I'm like, all right, I'll just have to deal with it. And I get
I know
right
the
back.
boys have stalker called too on my end.
Sorry.
But
Okay, but I love all our conversations, but I really
So-
want to learn
Yeah,
some
yeah.
skills here.
So so I mean, another one that a lot of people have and they don't know is telepathy, or ESP, right? Extrasensory perception. And it's just like you pick up the phone before it rings because you thought your phone rang, and it didn't, and you pick it up and the phone rings.
because they've sent out that intention of I want to call
because
you.
you're getting that energy in that's going to happen. So a lot of people don't pick up on that, or you think you got a text message and you check and you're like, weird, no text message, and right as you look at it, there comes the text message.
Right.
Or you think of your mother, all of a sudden mom calls.
Mm-hmm.
That's clairvoyance. You're looking in a future event, right? Now,
Yeah.
how many people do that? A lot.
I think it happens all the time.
Exactly.
You just don't
but
know.
nobody
You don't notice.
says, oh my God, I just looked into the future. But you did.
But also, can't it be that you're thinking about me right then? That's what makes you pick up the phone to call me, and I'm actually picking up on that intent.
It's different then because you're actually thinking it and then the call happens. When you're not thinking of your mother and you're cooking and all of a sudden the phone,
But couldn't you receive her thought?
yeah, that's what you're doing.
Isn't that
But
cool?
that's clairvoyance too because you're actually looking at an event.
Before it
You can
happens.
think of your mom and not think of the phone call. You know what I'm saying? But if you think of mom calling and then all of a sudden she calls, that's actually looking into a future event.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's say you're just working, you're stocking shelves, and all of a sudden your father pops into your mind, and let's say your father's deceased. That's you connecting with your father. That's your dad going, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
So he really is, because I'm sure
Yeah,
that happens
happens
to people
all the time.
But
When you're not putting a focus on your father, for instance, and you're really focusing on your job, and all of a sudden you get this image of your dad, or you get this image of your son, or whatever it is, that's them saying, hey.
So pay attention.
So pay attention and say hey back. Because what you're doing then is you're confirming to the universe that I hear you.
Yep.
I see you.
I'm aware.
And what are you doing then is you're opening that door. And you're saying, okay, I'm ready to receive more. That's what you're basically saying by acknowledging that dad was there.
And I understand that future humans, telepathy is going to be the way of communication.
It is.
And we're just developing these latent skills that we have.
And it's,
Yeah.
I mean, and this is a story of me and my husband. My husband and I are very telepathic with one another, and so are me and my kids. But, I used to come home from work, and I'd be driving in the car, and all of a sudden, pizza popped in my head, and I can't get it out. Pizza, 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 pizza. So I go and get pizza. I come home. He's going, "Did you bring the pizza?"
Oh, he sent it to you?
Yeah, he sends it
He
to
sent
me.
you a delivery
He goes,
request.
"Pizza, pizza, honey, pizza. Bring the pizza." You know, and I hear it. I pick up on it, and I
that's
come
so
home
cool.
with the pizza.
So my
You
son
know?
and I we've made those cards with stars and squiggles and lines and hearts, and we practice sending it to ourselves, and you know, we get a few right here and there, but we're practicing like
Yeah.
connecting on that level.
And it's just about trusting it and just knowing that you can do it. We all can do it. We're all connected,
Yeah.
you know, mentally. It's just about
It's a
feeling.
muscle, right?
Yeah, it's like a muscle. You have to train it, like singing. You know, got to learn how to sing too. So it's all about training it. And telepathy is actually, I think, one of the easiest ones,
Okay.
right? Because especially with the people that we love, we have a closer connection with them, with your husband, with your wife, you know, with your children. And it's just about practicing. Like, I remember my oldest doesn't communicate. She's 8. She doesn't communicate verbally. So I had to figure out something else. So I figured, why not try thinking it?
That's right. You talked about her being very telepathic.
Yeah, and you know, she's autistic. That's why, you know, she doesn't communicate verbally. And I remember she was playing in the living room, and I was in the kitchen, and I didn't. It kind of came by accident. I wasn't thinking about, oh, I'm going to send her a message, but I was thinking. I was going over my day. I still got to go to Grandma's, and I was thinking about getting the bag ready. You know, they have a bag with reserved clothes and diapers and all that stuff. Getting the bag ready. I was going over my head like a grocery list. What I still got to do. To get to Grandma, and all of a sudden she comes in with her shoes. She grabs the bag, and she was like, "Okay, I'm ready to go." I mean, I wasn't even saying anything. I was just thinking it, and she just picked up on it. And so that's how it started. And I was like, okay. So now I practice. Sometimes she's watching TV, and I go, okay, put your shoes on. I think it. Put your shoes on, put your jacket on, and she'll do it. She'll just go get the shoes and puts her stuff on.
That's
and,
so cool.
you know, it just takes practice. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But it's about taking away that blockage of, I can't do that.
Yeah, that's not possible.
When you
yeah.
say that, then, yeah, you're not going to do it.
Oh, I
Not gonna
love
work.
that.
But everybody began like this. I mean, I think most folks don't come in reading people, doing all. I mean, they may, but they have to realize it, wake up to it, practice it.
That
so-
or you actually come into a life with no amnesia. That does happen.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, like Jesus.
You know. Well, that is so my kids we play the 3 shapes, 3 colors.
Uh-huh.
And they love, and then I'll send it to you, you know, a purple triangle or a blue square. So that's fun too.
Oh,
So
Bobby
try
Joe
that.
is saying her daughter and I do this with colors, and she picked up every single color that I
Yeah,
picked. It
it's
scared us.
training.
It scared us.
And Loretta's saying hi from Perth, West Australia. Donna, hi. Thanks, girls.
Yeah, we
hi,
do it all the
Gina.
time, you know.
Hi,
So
guys.
cool.
All right, so what's next?
Okay, so telepathy, intuition, okay? And then we got, you know, clairvoyance or clairaudience.
All the Claires.
All the clairs. A lot of times I think that's daydreaming.
Okay.
We daydream. A lot of people daydream, and some more than others.
Yeah.
Especially as children.
Yeah.
You know, if you've noticed, as a kid, you're always
always
somewhere.
gone.
You're
Yeah.
always somewhere. And I think a lot of times that's just glimpse of the future that we're getting. That's something. There
Yep.
you go. The universe is confirming.
It's applauding.
Yeah, it's saying, there you go, straight on. So daydreaming is something that we do on a regular basis, sometimes even without our knowledge. So trust what you see. Maybe write it down.
Okay.
What did you see? Write it down. I daydream a lot. And I actually always see things like, lately I've been daydreaming about the Channeling Eric event. So I kind of get these glimpses of, okay, this is what you need to do and this is what we're going to talk about. So write it down and keep track of it. And, you know, you'll notice that everything will eventually come true. It'll just happen. Now, a lot of times we daydream and then so many years later, we get the feeling of deja vu. Right?
Oh,
We're
that's
like,
true.
I've seen that before, but I can't figure out where.
You
know?
daydreamed it.
And a lot of times it's either in a daydream or it's in a dream.
Yeah.
But it was so many years ago that, you know, you don't stand still with
Yeah,
it. And
yeah.
a lot of times we forget our dreams.
Oh,
But
yeah.
in our brain, it is stored. Those dreams are stored somewhere way in the back. And when deja vu happens, we're actually connecting to that memory, you know? So in a way, you're also like you know, it's fortune telling. You're looking into the future in some way or form again. You know,
your remote viewing.
Your remote, that was the word I was looking for. Remote viewing, basically.
I picked up on it.
And then so many years later, you see it, and that's when we get that feeling, deja vu. So you get deja vu, that means you saw something long time ago, and you're just picking up on it, and you're like, oh, now it's happening. So keep track of your daydreams. Keep track of your dreams. Dreams, and that's my next point is dreams. They can communicate to us with dreams, and so can our higher selves. So it's all about learning to interpret your dreams. A lot of dreams, I'm not going to say that every dream is a message. Mm-hmm. A lot of dreams are based on fear. Mm-hmm. They're based on
working things
what we're doing at the moment, the stress and the worry, and a lot of dreams will be an expression of that. But when you really get a dream that's like, well, that was kind of different, or you know, or a dead relative was there and he was trying to show you something, you kind of don't take the dream literally. Look at the message behind it. Let's just say that out of the blue you get this dream that there's a leak in your house and your house is flooding, right? That doesn't mean you're going to get a leak in your house, but it means that either in your body there's something not right. Your body could be your house, mm-hmm. and something isn't right, that you maybe need to go see a doctor, or you need to have a checkup or something like that. You know, you kind of have to look behind it. They're not going to come straight to you and say, okay, this is the case. And dreams are always kind of tricky in that. But there's excellent dream analyze people. They like analyze dreams, what that means and stuff like that. But
well, I wonder why they don't just give it to you. I mean, I wonder why I guess it has to filter through your subconscious.
It has to go through your filter. Yeah, it has to go through your imagination as well. So they do give you the message, but because we're dreaming, we're in this imaginative state. So we kind of our own self manipulates the dream, manipulates the message in a way that, you know, I don't know, that you kind of relate to, or so it's really about figuring it out.
Kind of more the feeling.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I want to make sure we get to some questions from our Facebook folks that Eric might be able to pop in and ask. But before we do that, you do Learn It Lives, where you teach mediumship. You have one coming up, right?
I have a beginner's mediumship class coming up on August 16th on Learn It Live. Again, talking about all of this stuff on how to start connecting, how to make the first steps. Because
I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah, I have like a whole list here, don't I? But like near-death experiences is also, you know, hopefully it doesn't happen to you, but that can really open.
It changes people's
lives. It opens
lives.
your eyeballs.
Yeah, yes. I've had so many people come back and they've just had a different trajectory on life, and they've had a near-death experience.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing, and it's just for people who want to get in tune with their own intuition, who want to get in tune with their own psychic abilities, or even advanced people who just want to kind of get a restart.
So how do they find you?
You can find me on my website, emmanuelmcintosh.com. Okay. You can send me a message there, or you can chat on Facebook with me.
Okay.
So you can send a message through Learn It Live, too. I think you can send a message
I've never been on that.
You need to.
I need to figure
it out. There's so much cool stuff on there.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in
But
doing
there's
this.
also a meditation class on there. So there's a meditation class of me on there.
Because you have you and your husband teach mindfulness and meditation in Belgium, but through the beauty of the internet, you can do things like this to open it up to the globe. Really?
Well, I think I just got so many requests.
Yeah.
That I just kind of caved in and said, okay, let's try this, and that way everybody from the world can kind of follow it. Because we used to do it at the house.
Your husband is correcting you. He's saying August 13th, honey.
Okay, August 13th.
And he said the girls are hungry.
And
he's my agenda.
Thank you, Gerald.
Agenda.
Elwie's saying hi from Sweden. Okay, so we want to open this up to, if you have questions about your experiences with opening your own psychic abilities, your own mediumship skills, the way you've interpreted things, or have questions, Eric hopefully will be able to join us and help us out. So just type them here on Facebook and we'll
ask.
Elwie is saying, why soul detract or split or get in a hole? Is that why one does soul retraction?
Can soul detract or split or get a...
Is that why one does soul retraction?
I don't know about that.
If a soul can split up or detract, like
one soul becomes two?
Okay, we're not sure what your question is. Oh,
Yeah.
Can a soul get stuck, I guess, is that, and you have to go get a soul? Because I know some people say they have to go do soul retrieval. But we kind of want to keep this about psychic development
about
and
developing.
tuning.
I mean, yeah, souls can always kind of get stuck in a lower frequency, and then they might have to come in and get you. I'm new at mediumship, just at the point of getting bits and pieces. How to progress to full conversation. Well, first of all, it's about acknowledging that. It's about acknowledging that you do have the ability. You have to tune into that frequency. Anybody can do that. Now, second of all, I think a lot of people have to understand that when mediums connect, we don't hear voices. A lot of people think I have this man voice of Eric going, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" Yeah. No, I hear my own voice.
So it sounds like you.
So it sounds like me. It sounds like my thoughts. It's just about figuring out how to distinguish your own thoughts from their thoughts. And for me, that started with asking for a sign, asking for some kind of signal. For me, that was touching my hand. Because I would get thoughts and I was like, is that me or somebody trying to communicate with me? And I would say, okay, if it's somebody else, can you please touch my hand? And that took some practicing, but eventually I started feeling tingles on my hand, or my finger would start twitching like that, and I couldn't stop it. And so immediately I knew then, okay, it's them. And then I go, okay, what is your message? Or hello. I would start by saying hello, and I would hear hello back. I was like, okay, that's a good beginning.
Yeah.
And that's how you start. It's about trying to figure out something. Some people ask for a stroke on the face, a kiss. Some people ask for a cue, like a word or a sign, a visual sign. It kind of depends on. It's about figuring out what your cue is or what your.
I know Lisa holds out her hands and she describes one as yes and one as no.
One is no, and she feels.
And you just.
That's a good one, I think.
You get real quiet and you ask questions,
and then you just focus on what
no
you feel.
Yeah.
And then you immediately get the confirmation. Okay, somebody's here communicating, and then it's all about trust. The next step is once you get your confirmation, it's about trusting that they're talking to you in thoughts. Mm-hmm. So, not to burst people's bubbles, but we don't hear voices, so don't expect to hear them. You're going to hear your own voice. You're going to hear your own thoughts, and then it's about trusting that you're getting in is answering your question. And how do you know another cue for knowing that it's really you is when you ask a question, before you finish your question, an answer's already coming in. That's another cue to say, okay, this is not me, because you haven't even finished your question yet. That happens a lot to me too. And that's why people are still asking their question. Sometimes I'm already starting to talk because the answer already came in. Yeah.
It comes in, they come in as packets sometimes too, like whole thoughts.
Yeah. So it's all about trust. It's all about trust and figuring out a way to distinguish imagination from communication.
Well, okay, so Charlotte French asked, does a pendulum help?
Yes. Pendulums are kind of, but, okay, when it comes to pendulums, I just want to say something. Keep in mind that you can manipulate the pendulum. So when you ask a question, you need to be fully putting yourself away, your own wants and needs out of the picture. You need to stay objective at that time. And when it comes to yourself, that can be really tricky. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I will give it to somebody else if it's a question about me and say, you just hold it and I'll ask the question. When it's for other people, just make sure that you put your own thoughts out of it. As a medium, you have to be completely neutral in a situation. Mm-hmm. Same thing with a pendulum. If you're thinking yes, 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 well, the pendulum's going to show you yes, because you're manipulating.
You can override it. Yeah. I do that with muscle testing too. Do you ever do muscle testing for yourself? Like if I'm at a store, I'm like, is this supplement for me? I'll either get a yes and like feel pulled to it,
I do
or
that.
I'll get a no.
That's what that is.
I'll get a no, like no, your energy doesn't want that.
Away from it.
If you lean into it.
But you can
yes,
say,
right?
can I have this chocolate cake? I can
another,
lean into it if I really want it.
Yeah.
That's another good tip, I think, for people
to trust
who
your
want
own
to know,
intuition.
is it you? Are you communicating to me, Dad? You know, it's about standing still, and you basically allow the energy to pull you in a direction.
Yeah.
I do that.
Some people do
sometimes.
it with fingers or
Yeah.
arms, so you can Google muscle testing because that's a really good way to get kind of yes and no questions
Yeah, you get
answered.
yes and no's. Yeah.
Okay, Milan is feeling like her connection with her son, she doesn't have the same connection she did like when he first passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've had that too, where I feel like somebody's in my presence and then they're like, "Where'd they go? They haven't
Yeah.
been
And
around
you know
for
what
a while."
that is? Expectation.
Okay.
You're starting to expect things. You're starting to put demands on what you see, what you receive in. And as soon as we put expectations and demands on something, that's all those feelings, you know, all those intent, it just comes from a basic of fear. And when we expect things, we do it because we're afraid we're not going to get anything. We're afraid we're not going to get a clear message or a sign, right? So take away the expectations. Have fun with it. It needs to be fun. Don't put any fear on it. Don't put any expectation on it. Don't put any demands on it. That'll just block it. And so a lot of mediums struggle with that too. They start off real clear, real open, and it becomes a business.
Yeah.
People start having expectations and they start to put demands on themselves. And they start to put expectations on themselves. And they'll notice that their clarity will come less and less. The messages will come through less and less. And they freak out. And they panic, and then we get fear induced into it, and then they completely lose the ability. So get rid of all the fear, get rid of the expectations and the demands, and just have fun with your loved one.
And it's never really gone, right? You've just
They're
covered
there.
it up.
They're there, but they can't get through your wall that you're building up, your frequency.
You've clouded.
Fear drops your frequency, and when that happens, the connection gets less and less. So if we go into it with a playful attitude, like, hey, let's have some fun, let's put a candle on, see what you can do, you know, play games with them, you know, whatever it is, like move something, or okay, let's see what I can get in. It's about approaching it with a fun, non-demanding, non-expecting
Like it's just a
attitude.
game.
And what you're doing is you're raising your frequency because you're doing it with joy and love and just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
You raise your frequency, and you'll notice that you'll get better connection.
You meet them.
You meet them. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm sure, Milan, I'm sure your son is with you all the time.
All the time.
But
He's
maybe
going,
there's Oh, he's saying maybe there's times when you need to be doing this by yourself, or need to. I know you get guides come in for different transitions and things. You'll have different guides be present, and they kind of come and go depending on where you're at in life. So maybe.
Yeah, and
does that play
it
into it?
also depends on your state of mind. If you're going through a hard time, it's going to be really hard for them to connect to you.
Yeah.
They're there. They're guiding you.
Always.
But you
All
won't
right.
have that clear, full-on communication.
Okay, so we have a mom with 5 kids, and she said that, she doesn't have time. Everybody says, you have to meditate, you have to meditate. She's like, I don't have time to meditate. Do I have to? And then
No.
the next question is, how long do I have to meditate a day?
Okay, meditation is a really helpful tool, but it doesn't work for everyone. Okay, also, you can meditate. When people say, I don't have time to meditate, everybody has time to meditate. When you're walking to your car, meditate walking. It's about being fully present in the moment. It's about being aware of every step. How does your foot feel on the ground? How do the trees sound around you? Do you hear any birds, anything around you? It's about full awareness of your environment, and it's about full awareness of your body and your mind. That's what meditation is about. It's not about sitting there in a uncomfortable position. I can't even sit with my legs like that, You get cramps, and it doesn't work that way. So I don't meditate every day either. When I do my readings, I meditate to connect, to get a better connection. But when I'm off, I didn't meditate this morning.
Yeah,
I don't meditate every day. It's valuable. It'll help you calm your mind. It'll help you raise your frequency. So if you can do it and you love doing it every day, go for it.
Yeah.
But it's not mandatory. You don't need to meditate to connect.
Well, I think it's an old school thing, too. I think the veil is so much thinner now that yes, it helps to calm the chatter, but it at the same time,
it just helps
You
to
don't
calm
have
the
to.
chatter and raise the frequency. But you could do that in a different way, too. If you live your life mindfully every day, you're meditating 24 hours.
Okay, Gina's asking, do you have physical experiences when you channel? She feels full body rushes when a client resonates.
I feel the energy. When a person comes in, deceased aunt or whoever, And I just go, oh my God, this is a fun, bubbly person, you know, and I start going crazy. Like my body just starts going all weird. Or sometimes somebody comes in who was really shy. And I'm like, oh God, he's so shy. You know, I get calmer. Sometimes I do things with my hands. I've noticed that. I don't notice that, but when I watch the videos, I do things with my hands. And I have had people say, oh my God, my grandmother used to do that. Always with her hands, you know, like the exact same movement. Cool. So that does come in, but I don't notice it. It's usually other people who notice and recognize the gesture. Do I feel something physically? I feel the energy. Do I feel somebody grabbing me? No, 'cause they don't have hands.
They don't have hands.
But they can physically. You can feel touches.
I do, but it's not like how we're touching now. It's more of... It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like a very gentle change of energy around you. It's a change of like a little cool breeze,
like a heat, or
your hairs are standing up, or you just kind of feel a light tingling. That's them touching you.
Yeah.
It's not like boom, there you go. They can if they really want to, but they really have to lower their frequency in order to do that.
I once heard, I was in an office all by myself, and I heard, Carrie!
Yeah,
who just said that? And so that's the only audio I've ever heard.
I have to sometimes write, and I think a lot of people do. When you're going to bed and you're about to fall asleep and you're kind of in between, all of a sudden you hear a voice. I have had that sometimes where it goes, hey, or hello, what's up? And you kind of startles you. And then you're like, yes? And then you don't hear anything anymore because you're like out of that. Because when we're in between sleep and being awake, we're in that middle zone. Our frequency's starting to rise. Because while we go into the deep sleep, you know, our soul actually leaves the body. So when you're kind of in between that, you know, you can pick up on these voices.
I heard cross chatter. I heard these two people talking, and then I pulled out and I knew, and then I heard it again. I was like, oh, now that's cool. I've only heard it like one night.
I've talked to a lot of people who have that. All of a sudden they hear the voice of somebody they know, or they hear a word, but it just startles you because you don't expect it. You know, and then once you're startled, you're like out of that zone. So sometimes I wish I could just go, okay, it's fine, yes, keep talking. But you don't expect it.
I was trying to plan a son's birthday party, and the dates weren't working out, and I was about to doze off to sleep, and I was just thinking, gosh, how am I going to make this work out? And I heard, how about the 17th? And I was like, okay, let me go see what the 17th is. But it was such a loud, weird, it was my voice, but it was lower.
Yeah.
It was, how about the 17th?
Yeah.
And it was perfect. The date worked for the venue and the party, and I was like, thank you.
It does happen. I think a lot of people hear it.
Wait. Our soul leaves our body when we sleep?
Yes.
Yes, you astral travel every night.
Yeah, otherwise our bodies wouldn't rest. Why? Because the mind's always in it.
Yeah.
You know, and you have different stages of sleep. You have the REM. We're still in the sleep. We're still there. We're still in our bodies. And usually the REM is when we start, you know, we're kind of reflecting on our day, and we're creating dreams to kind of explain what's going on or to deal with the fears that we're dealing with. And then when we go into the deep sleep, that's when we leave our bodies and we actually go and hang out. The problem is we don't remember when we wake up. Why? Because we have to go through another REM, and that's what we remember last. Is that REM.
But I've been learning to astral travel, the lucid dreaming where I'm out. I've been learning how to be. Have you ever woken up in a dream? You're like, I know I'm dreaming. And then in a couple of dreams, I felt like I've fallen asleep and woken up again, and I thought, oh wait, I'm still in a dream. It's like it's happened like over and over. I'm still in my dream.
Cool. And that's when you have to. A lot a people learn how to control that.
Yes.
And then they can go anywhere.
Yeah.
You really can go anywhere.
Yeah. But that takes control. I'm not so good in dreaming. I do dream, and I think a lot of people might have that as well. Is I get a lot of dreams that are so real. And I look myself in the mirror, and it's not me. I see a completely different person, but I am looking through this person's eyes. And I've asked about that because I get those dreams all the time. At first, I thought they were premonitions. You know, I'm seeing something that's going to happen because I would get murdered, choked to death. I drowned.
Other lives.
My dreams were never positive. I always had very negative dreams. But yeah, they just said that
We don't want to be out of time.
Just
We
a
wanna
reflection
keep
of my other
going.
lives.
Thank you
That's
for
what it was.
sharing. I know we've just scratched the
scratching the
surface.
surface.
I know, I'm
But
sorry.
yes, somebody had asked about
much
how can you
talking.
learn more about developing this, and go to EmmanuelMcIntosh.com. We'll put the links to everything on JoyRideShow.com so that you can connect. Hopefully soon next year you'll open up for readings again. Just because you're so full.
December, people, you can connect with
But
me.
in the
and-
meantime, you can learn to strengthen your own.
yeah, and I'll be
your
doing
own
group
abilities.
readings.
Group
and
readings.
all
See,
of
I
that.
love that.
Learn
I
it
think
live.
that's the, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks for tuning in.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for all the messages on Facebook. We really appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Yes.
Bye. Love
Bye.
ya.
Red roses too, I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.